Did Futurama just replace Fry? Let's talk about the new episode.
Oh, thanks. You always know how to make me feel better, Fry.
That's what I'm here for, honey.
What is up, guys? Mike here. Welcome back to my channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more pop culture content and more on all the new Futurama episodes. Let's get into it. Okay, so last week's episode, Quidd's Game, was a massive improvement for Futurama's new season, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am covering every new Futurama episode over the course of the season. Episode 3 is called The Temp, and I gotta say, I thought this one was pretty good.
Yes, yes. Yes. Bloody hell, yes.
And after the false start that was the opening NFT episode, I am much more pleased with this week's episode and last week's episode.
The best 2 weeks of my life.
I think it's shaping up to be a pretty good season, probably not as good as any of the original Futurama run, but I still am looking forward to what they have next. The Temp was a really interesting episode. It starts off in the middle of something happening that is not really explained to us, the viewers, in which Fry is no longer Fry. And what I mean by that is some other guy who isn't Fry is pretending to be Fry, and all of the other characters are treating him as though he is Fry, which immediately makes us think that something weird is going on here.
Oh, I'll never get tired of this job. I have the best life ever.
I really liked the uniqueness that it just sort of drops us in the midst of things and doesn't really explain it. I think that's really fun, and I actually wondered as it was going if it was just going to be an episode that Fry wasn't in and there was no explanation for it. But then we actually get the explanation to this, and it calls back to an earlier episode from the original Futurama run. I actually found this kind of cool. It goes back to the Amazonian women episode in which Fry, Zap Brannigan, and Bender are sentenced to death by Snoo Snoo.
You want died like last men visit Amazonia?
What'd they die of?
Crushed pelvises.
Which, by the way, is still one of the funniest moments in the whole series.
Computer sentences them to death by Snoo Snoo!
Yeah!
Upon returning from that trip, Fry actually went on a holiday, and the Planet Express team gets a temp to fill in for him.
How's my favorite branch doing?
They go to this temp agency in which there are so many people ready to temp for pretty much any job, and they end up with this guy, Frank, I think his name was. Ironically, I can't remember this character's name, even though that's kind of like the main joke of the entire episode, but I'm pretty sure it was Frank.
Now, say my name.
And Frank is just a generic dude. There's nothing really exciting about him at all. I liked the look into this idea of like a temp kind of agency, but it's really almost like a factory or like a warehouse of different people. And that's kind of what I love most about Futurama. It's just like looks at what things could be in the future. Even though they're a little absurd and wacky, sometimes they can be painfully accurate. And so the temp joins the crew, and nobody remembers him or remembers his name or acknowledges his existence, to the point that they go to a distant planet to do a mission and leave him behind on the planet.
Guys, the ship is abandoning us.
And then Fry comes back from his break and kind of everything is fine, and the Planet Express ship crew go on like nothing ever happened, completely forgetting about Frank.
'Cause I'm all alone. There's no one here beside me.
That's when we come back into like the real time of the episode, in which the Planet Express crew, I think 25 years later, remembers that they left Frank on that planet and go to rescue him. And he is still there, isolated and disheveled, has just been living there all these years and essentially becoming a madman. And of course they bring him back to planet Earth, where he kind of goes back to his life, I guess. And another cool thing from this episode that again was like the look at like future technology and how things might work in the future is like the way that Frank shaves in the mirror, and he just sort of uses a pen to draw where he wants to shave and it just gets rid of the hair. I thought that was really cool. Again, like this is what I love about Futurama. It's just being teleported into a world 1,000 years into the future and seeing how the world might run in those times. Anyway, it turns out that while he was isolated on this abandoned planet, there were only 2 books for him to read, one of which was The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, to which he says,
That one I didn't read. It's the third book of the trilogy, and I've never read the first two. I didn't want to spoil it, you know?
That is a great bit. But the other book is like a book on like how to do some ancient hypnotism technique. So upon return, he hypnotizes the entire Planet Express crew.
Please, Hypnotoad! It's beyond my control!
To believe that he is the real Fry, as he takes Fry and leaves him on the abandoned planet that Planet Express left him on. And by hypnotizing the crew, they all just believe that he's Fry, and we kind of come full circle to the point that we started at in this episode.
Why hast thou forsaken me?
And Frank, as Fry, is much more productive than our original Fry, but then everyone suddenly remembers the real Fry and they go and rescue him, to which Frank explains that he thinks Fry's life is so amazing comparatively to his. It sort of reminds me of like Frank Grimes from The Simpsons, who is really jealous of Homer's amazing life.
Good heavens! This is a palace! How in the world can you afford to live in a house like this, Simpson?
I don't know.
Even though for us, the viewers, we're not often seen or presented Homer or Fry's life as being idyllic, there are other people that are worse off who do harbor jealousy and envy over their lives. And when you think about it, Fry's life isn't really that bad at all. He has a full-time job, he has a partner, he has a bunch of friends at work and in his personal life, and he clearly doesn't have heaps of like living pressures, so of course someone without those things might be really, really envious. Overall, I thought this was a really strong episode. I enjoyed the way it just threw us into a scenario, the way it played with like narrative devices, the way it connected back to the original run of Futurama. It even starts with like quite a clear Star Trek sort of parody with Leela like directing the ship, which I didn't mention before. That was also really fun. And a really strong third outing for this season of Futurama. So I can't wait to be back next week covering episode 4. Whew, thank you so much for watching another video, guys. I am covering every episode of Futurama on this channel amongst all kinds of other pop culture content, so make sure you hit the subscribe button for more content like this. You can also check out a bunch of my other content, including my blog, my podcast. It's all down in the description to this video, so I would love to have your support. And patreon.com/RadioMike is the best way for you to support me if you are not there already. Just chuck me a couple dollars every month. It really goes a long way to helping small channels like me survive. But that is pretty much it for me. I've got a bunch of videos going up this week, so make sure you stick around, but I will see you in another one. My name's Radio Mike, and this has been The Inside of My Mind. Catch you later.